Hi, this is Dr. Mercola, and today I'm here with Julie, who is one of our team members at the office here. And we are going to review how you can make fermented vegetables at home, and we'll share with you the process that we go at our office here. So Julie not only prepares our fermented vegetables, but she also does our juicing in the morning. We make that as an option for people who work at our office. So, interestingly, we use the same juicer to make one part of this. But fermented vegetables are the single most important health pattern that you could introduce into your life to optimize things. There's just no question. It's just phenomenally beneficial. It's one of the most important newer additions to the program that we've realized, because it has so many benefits. And one of the main ones is that it helps improve your immune system, and it obviously improves your digestion, but it also, these bacteria in their cell membranes, they have the ability to bind to toxins, so they help you detoxify and remove toxins from your body. Really powerful and profound benefit. So one of the other major benefits of the fermented vegetables is that they produce vitamins and specific nutrients like B vitamins and vitamin K2. Now, vitamin K2 is just every bit as important as vitamin D. That's the new information that we're finding, and they work actually together. So without the vitamin K2, when you're getting your sunshine or your doses of oral vitamin D, you're not going to get all the benefits, because you need the vitamin K2 to integrate the calcium into the matrix of your bones. But it also provides enormous benefits for heart disease and cancer. So interestingly, not all fermented vegetables produce high levels of vitamin K2. Now, we've done a lot of experiments, and part of the process of making the fermented vegetables is that you'll use a starter culture. Now, we use cabbage, of course, one of the primary ingredients in making our fermented vegetables. And cabbage, when it's grown naturally and organically without not fertilizers, but artificial fertilizers, synthetic ones, or herbicides, it has plenty of bacteria that are just grown naturally. It's just indigenous to that vegetable. It seems to grow in high concentrations. So you could theoretically, and many people do, produce fermented vegetables just with the bacteria that's typically present on the cabbage. It's also present in some of the other vegetables, not typically as high as on the cabbage. But what we find is that there's a higher benefit by introducing a larger number of different strains into the mix. And we've done some experiments, and we've played with this a bit and actually measured the amount of vitamin K2 that's coming out of the naturally producing one versus one that has strains that are specifically optimized for producing vitamin K2. And we've been able to increase the amount of vitamin K2 by 10 times. We're actually getting a very high therapeutic value, almost to the point where it's as high as in miso. So not quite as high, but it's getting close to it. So it's a phenomenally important component. So I couldn't encourage you strong enough to do this. It's somewhat intimidating. There's a concern that, oh, I'm going to grow something, the mold's going to get contaminated, I'm going to make myself and my family sick, but that's just not going to happen. I know when you first started, Julie, you were a bit intimidated by the process and were a little frantic about but why don't you share your experience in starting this? And because we introduced you to this. We didn't hire Julie as an expert in fermented vegetables to come in there. No. We said, we want to do fermented vegetables, you've got to learn how to do this, and we started the process just a few months ago.
Yeah, actually it's gone quite smoothly. Basically it's just picking the vegetables that you want to be in the fermented vegetables that you want, just washing them, peeling whatever you need to peel, making sure that you have your culture, starter culture, and just adding your celery juice with it, making sure everything is mixed thoroughly, and getting it into your jars.
Well, why don't you comment on your apprehension about doing this initially?
I was a little overwhelmed,
yeah.
Would be an understatement. It is very time consuming, but also making sure that you have enough of each vegetable, and that each jar gets the correct amount of vegetables into it. And once I got underway with it, it went much smoother, and now that I've done it,
so there's a learning curve,
yeah.
Obviously, but once you get
it's trial and error,
yeah.
Which we did play around with,
yeah.
as far as adding certain different vegetables to it. But I think we've got a great combination now that we're using, and everyone seems to enjoy the taste of it. And
Now, you can purchase these commercially. A lot of health food stores have them, and you know, so that might be an easier route for many people. But they're not inexpensive. A typical quart, and this is the container that we recommend producing them in, is about $20 or so, somewhere in that range. And you can see we've got enough here for about 3.5 gallons. That produces, is this enough for a week or 2 weeks?
for us, that would be 2 weeks.
All right, so this is a 2-week supply that we're making. And so she'll go through this in a moment, but I just want to mention, if we can, the vegetables that we're putting in here. The beautiful thing about doing this at home yourself is, as opposed to purchasing a commercial, there's 2 components. One is that you can customize it for your specific likes and taste, which is very difficult, if not impossible, to do for a commercially prepared one. But more importantly is the starter culture, which really has this profoundly increased level of vitamin K2 with all its enormous benefits. So I'm a big proponent of doing yourself. Now, some of you may not have the time, effort, and energy, but you can, you know, this is a 2-week supply. For some people, this might be a 2 or 3 month supply. Right. So, you know, we have a large number of people. We offer this at no charge to our staff during our lunches, because that's a benefit we provide to our employees, provide them free lunches. And we add this, and I strongly encourage all of our employees to do that. Not all of them do yet. Some of them are still a little bit intimidated and apprehensive. But let's go into the specific vegetables, and maybe we can just review that. Now, the primary one is cabbage. We also use a lot of carrots. And you're saying, well, aren't carrots full of sugar? Well, they do have sugar in them, and if you're going to juice them, it's a whole different scenario. I'm not a strong proponent of carrot juice, but as a vegetable, especially as a fermented vegetable with all the fiber, the bacteria actually go in there and they break that down. They actually digest the sugar, and they turn it from a regular sugar into like lactic acid. So it's not going to give you that high sugar, high glycemic, insulin-producing reaction. So carrots and the cabbage, and then we also have celery.
Which we use just the celery for the celery juice, which is what we mix our probiotic into.
And she's actually got some out here. And just to give you a quick summary, and we're going to actually show her doing the specific processes, but during these will be washed and cleaned and shredded. We have a commercial shredder, but you can use a regular food processor to do that. And then the vegetables will be put into the container. You don't want to screw this on tightly, because the process of fermentation will produce carbon dioxide. That's the gas that's released from the bacteria, and especially the first few days, there's a lot of the gas that comes out, so you have to vent it, otherwise you'd have a problem. Maybe even explode the glass or break it. So, so that's the simplified process, and why don't we go over here and review the different. Now, as I said, the benefit of doing this is that you can totally customize it for your taste. So we have the celery juice we went over. We create that for you. You could actually put celery in here too, shredded if you wanted to. The cabbage, and then we have other ones like
we do the carrots.
The carrots.
We've got golden beets that we use.
We use some golden beets.
We use ginger, garlic, a Granny Smith apple, sweet potato, parsley, and I believe that's.
And you can use any herb you'd like.
Anything.
You can rosemary, cilantro, thyme. And we use one specific one that I like, because I like really, really hot foods, spicy foods. So we've been playing with the peppers, and right now we've decided that habanero pepper is the best, and we're going to start with 2. We've had some of the other Thai hot peppers, and we probably didn't get a really hot strain. We were using up to 6 of those, and so we decided to switch to habaneros, and I'm really excited to see how that's going to work out. We use the new, so actually in the process, when do you add the starter culture? Do you add that if they're all shredded?
I add that after it's all shredded, and I've got it in my big bowl, and then I add
actually a big mixing bowl like this.
That's exactly the one that I use. Yeah. And after all the vegetables are inside the bowl, I actually mix my culture in my pitcher with my celery juice, and I actually pour it over all of the vegetables.
From the starter culture, I mean, you can make this without a starter culture, because just the cabbage itself will ferment. But if you really want a better benefit, and if you're going through all this work, effort, and energy, this doesn't make sense not to use a starter culture, especially one that produces more vitamin K2. So you just mix it in here, and the typical dose that we're using now, I believe, is a ½ a teaspoon per quart.
Correct.
A ½ a teaspoon per quart. So, and you just mixes it up, and then you pour it in that, and then that'll be poured into the vegetable juice. So it works really well. And I'm really, as I said, absolutely excited, enthusiastic, and couldn't recommend this more heartily to everyone. Strongly recommend. I think it really is the Mrs. Ingredient. There was a zoologist about 100 years ago, Eli Metchnikoff, who first started exploring this and making it aware in sort of the contemporary times. And he was really the professional who identified longevity with the Bulgarians and eating their fermented dairy, the yogurts and the kefirs and things. And they seem to be living longer because of this, and that was identified as one of the key characteristics. But they're probably, fermented dairy is certainly a benefit and has some value for many people, but I think fermented vegetables really take fermented foods to the next level, and it's so easy to do. It really is pretty straightforward. It's not a challenge. Just take some time, a little effort, and watch the videos. We'll have the recipe. Again, you can totally customize it. It's hard to make a mistake if you follow the basics. You just want to make sure that there's no air exposed in here, that you mash it down really good and put the celery juice. And then there's a little cabbage leaf you put on the top to seal it off. But it's a really pretty straightforward process, and we're really excited to do this. We've been doing it for about 6 months now. And it's just really transformed the health of a lot of people at our working place here, our office. So I strongly recommend you do it, and Julie is going to take you through the next phases as to how we do it here in our office.
Okay, I'm going to start off by getting my celery prepared to make our celery juice that we're going to be adding our probiotic to. So I'm going to put that through the juicer and make juice out of it. Now I'm going to be adding the probiotic to our celery juice. And make sure that you mix it very well so it's all incorporated. Now I'm going to make sure that I have prepared all my vegetables. You want to start by scrubbing them all, and then we'll be cutting them up in small enough pieces that you can get them through your shredder. Next, I'm slicing our beets. And now I'm going to be slicing up our sweet potato that we have already peeled. And our washed red pepper, our Granny Smith apple, our ginger, and just kind of rough chop your garlic before putting it into the shredder. And slicing up our carrot. And if you are going to be using hot peppers, habanero, any of those, I recommend that you use a plastic glove or rubber glove. When handling that, they are very hot and could possibly burn your hands. After you put it into the shredded vegetables as well, keep your gloves on for mixing it. I'm going to now start putting our vegetables into our shredder. We actually have a commercial grade shredder here at Mercola because we make such an abundance of this, but a regular food processor at home would be just as good. And just make sure that you've got everything mixed evenly. And the reason, again, I have these big gloves on is because I've got the habanero peppers in there, and you can really burn your hands with those. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Now I'm going to be adding our celery juice with our probiotic. You want to make sure you get all of this shredded vegetables mixed in with the probiotic and celery juice. Don't forget that's going to help with our fermenting stage. Next up is filling your mason jars with your fermented vegetables. You want to try and get as many in there as possible, but yet not too much that you can't get your cabbage leaf in. Then you're going to take your masher and mash those shredded vegetables down. Next step is you're going to take part of your cabbage leaf and put that right into the top of the jar. Then take your lid and screw it onto your mason jar, but don't screw it all the way on so it's nice and tight. You want it loose so some air can get out of it when it starts to expand while it's fermenting. When all your jars are filled, you need to find a location where they are going to be kept at a controlled temperature. The best thing we thought to do was put them into a cooler. You're going to, again, make sure that your lids are not too tightly on the jars themselves. They need to be a little loose. Put them into your cooler, close the top, and leave them in the cooler for about 5 to 7 days. We normally here at Dr. Mercola's office keep them in for 7 days. On the 7th day, we take them out, and then you will transfer them to your refrigerator.